Hey guys, good night, good evening. Um, the video that I'm about to make for you all is the last one I'll be doing in quite a while. Maybe the last one ever of this kind of style. That's because I'm about to go into a 6 to 9 month rehab program, which I have really good feelings and expectations about. Um, so this is based on this diagram. So in this diagram, the Christ is the circle, the Antichrist, or the pattern, is the triangle, and then the little corners of the triangle that stick off outside of the circle, I'm calling them Antichristian Points. So as you can see, like, the majority of both the Christ and the Antichrist overlap. And I called the little corners Antichristian Points. I have been calling the part of the circle that goes out that's not over the triangle, I call the overextended Christ, which is a personal, just a notion I have that probably is not worth anything, of kind of the perception that socially people extend trying to be Christ-like or helpful and be a good Samaritan into things like political correctness and arbitrary manners and social customs and stuff like that. And I have thought, although I'm rethinking it, but I have thought that that part of why the Antichrist was so necessary was to cut off the part of the Christ that encroaches too far. And in a way, I still believe that, but not so much now that I've thought through this diagram. So, when I say the Christ, what am I talking about? In this case, I'm talking about the Christ as all of material reality. Basically, that the Christ is the substance of kind of the raw, generalized metaphysical substance of which everything's made. And it's not necessary or automatic to have the Christ do that, but in our particular world, cosmos, that's how it is. And the Christ is, I also used to call it the orthoplex, and I'm coming back to that. The saying that the Christ is like the objective reality, that where everything meets at right angles, Cartesian coordinates, and I used to also call it the center of the ether, imagining the ether fanning out like kind of like a flame, it's hard to describe, especially without pictures and math. But um, but well, the main point is just that the Christ is the part of the ether that we don't call ether because um, it's has solid kind of dependable reality. It's not ether is by definition uh, subjective experience. So like it's there's only in ether. It's only the only how am I there's no uh, empirical existence. It's only subjective existence. So things only exist in ether as there's someone to perceive them. And from um, although I would also say that's things do live in the ether. I don't want to back myself into a corner. I'm getting on a bit of a tangent. I was going to talk about ether though because I was going to say that for the bulk of the Christ here, which is covered by the Antichrist or the pattern is providing all of the um, all of the ether. So that would make what I call the overextended Christ would make that the orthoplex, the material world that lacks ether, that's only raw material, you know, that the orthoplex. Um, and so when in preparing for this, I thought through, well, what does that mean? And um, basically, it just means that's the part of this world that will continue to be this world as we know it, with science and technology and um, time and death and like the uh, the the part of reality that um, will just have a um, kind of have no, just continue as it is without any sort of transition, while part that's uh, inside the pattern will massively change and bloom into higher dimensions and all sorts of fun stuff. So let's see, where am I? Okay, so the Antichristian Points, I'm going to talk mostly about those now. The first thing I'm going to say is that I think I'm the only one who's been to the Antichristian Points. I think my experience with the pattern is unique and singular and involves me going to the furthest points of those. I wonder if it's even survivable to. I mean, I guess it would be if someone could get there. I'm always on the fence about how special am I, you know. Um, so I've numbered them 1, 2, 3, and that's because that's the order that I'm in this diagram that I am visiting them, and I see that they correspond to the beginning, middle, and end of these two 7-year cycles that I'm aware of. One that ended a bit more than a year ago, and this following one, which we're a year and change into now. So the first anti-Christian point, which I mean, I probably don't have to say this out loud, but I will. That is because there's the pattern without Christ, without that those right angles to latch onto, without that solidity. So, and that's kind of why I think you have to know the pattern to be able to visit them. So the first one was my discovery of the pattern in 2011. Then I traveled along. It's so hard to do this in this mirror image. Okay. I traveled along this line of the triangle from the first point to the second point. So I say traveled along the line. What does that mean? Well, it means that I was going in and out between the orthoplex and the aether, and sometimes even the orthoplex that doesn't have aether. So, and how was I traveling? Basically through addiction. Like, my addiction was the means of transportation, I guess, and that sounds silly. But it's true. Like that's and I think it's fitting that the way I happen to draw it, it goes down like that, because it's like digging, you know. So I went from 1 to 2. And then when I reached the anti-Christian point number 2, I continued to delve all the way to the tip of it. So I continued with my addiction, this stretch here, and that was, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months that I was in and out of the hospital, and experiencing like temporary schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder and borderline, or something that was really like borderline. Just a lot of bizarre experiences in mental illness, kind of powered by addiction. Okay, so yeah, in general, the past year has been me down there in that second anti-Christian point. Maybe it was 3 or 4 months ago, maybe longer. No, that sounds right. I met the pattern of the left, I call it, which is the pattern, but like the version of it that like I'll just say serves the realms which are left-hand path dominant, which is fairy. So it's kind of like the same role of it didn't seem so much like the Godhead, really. It was more like a being, like it was the gatekeeper, the um, and it was astounding and wonderful and just like so beautiful and cool, and I felt so proud of how much it had grown from this raw, uncontrollable energy that I met at first to like a um, hospitable, generous, courageous, colorful, creative. Like I think that it made me feel good about my work because I think that um, everything I was working on kind of percolates. The pattern. It goes both ways. The flow. So yeah, that's the pattern to the left. Let's see. So at this point in that last anti-Christian point, not the last, the second one, um, my, I guess toward at the beginning, probably me entering that point is when the ether that made up my body was shredded on all four axes by addiction. Um, Shredded, I'm thinking like a spiral sliced ham, and it was four axes at once, and then I got the one under control. It was three. Um, that's how I think of it anyway. Um, so that causes two um, really bad things. The first of which is unconscious magic. Things like uh, things subtly working against me, going wrong, bad luck sort of things, people misunderstanding me, experiences that I would call like a lot of social things that I think normal people would experience as paranoia, but in my case, because I know the pattern and have that grounding, I just have like a different set of of dysfunctions or of pathologies. But yeah, that is really serious, a problem that I have been. Um, I'm starting to get self-conscious. There's always that point in these videos when I start to. Um, so uh, the so this is unconscious magic, and it happens. I mean, addiction can definitely start it or kick it off, but uh, but the idea is that I can't. Um, excuse me. I can't control it. So that's inspired me to seek out having healing my body, um, having a normal space-time body like normal people. Um, and I wanted to mention that that magic is both inside and outside my body. So inside my body, I call it my second brokenness. It's a bunch of new different somatic symptoms, um, kind of more, less in them. The first one was very much in the vertical central column of my body, whereas the second one is kind of more on the sides. Um, so and then I wanted to say what's happened most recently, the past couple of weeks. The past couple of weeks I have developed what I call my extraordinary perception methods, one of which you all have heard of, decoder eyes. The other two are receiving signals from the Leviathan. They're like little motes of smoke or kind of black, like darkness. Sometimes they're kind of even like billows or plumes of that. And then there's also like shimmery stuff in the air that I count as part of that, although sometimes I'm not sure that that's really the Leviathan. And sometimes when I see that, I'm sure that it's my guardian angel. So there's some, and I call the guardian angel Altior because that's, because one reading of what it is Altior. And I'm not going to get into that again. So, and then the third one is the newest, just in these past couple weeks. Although I had something sort of like it during one of my crises, like a year ago. But it's hallucinations that reflect my subconscious, but that are direct messages I've found them to always be correct and accurate of pictures of like shapes and diagrams and colors, and they're very, very faint. And it's kind of only when I'm like still and staring at a wall or like a blank surface, and very faint, but very, very helpful. Like I've found that through these extraordinary perception methods, I am able to know what's going on in pretty much in my entire mind, which I used to take for granted. I mean, I used to be able to fit all of my mind into my mind at once. Now I can't do that, but I find that if I am still and allow these extraordinary perception methods to operate, they can help me stay abreast of. I'm afraid this is getting too long, but there's nothing really to do about it. Okay, so so there's kind of two functions of using those methods. Well, yeah, I don't need to. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. Okay, so now I have to get from 2 to 3 over this next 7 years. And what I have figured out is that if I stay in the ether, meaning along that straight line, my addiction and my second brokenness can't heal. Because because then I don't know why this is hard to say. The fact that my body that's shredded is made of ether, um, kind of, as long as it's in the ether, I'm going to still have those effects, the unconscious magic and somatic effects, and um, so okay. Yeah, like I don't want to have energies like running through that ether, and that happens most strongly when I use addictively, but also just in experiencing ether, I um, kind of be projected into it. I don't know. The other thing is that my bipolar, that would mania is, being in ether too. Um, so uh, I'm a little embarrassed that I don't have a better explanation or grasp of that, but it made sense when I wrote it, and I know it's true and accurate. Um, so what I figured out is that I need to go on the curved path, the path of the orthoplex of the um, so-called overextended Christ, um, and so that is so I basically I've been sitting right here at this point for months, teetering, trying to get out. Mostly I was trying to go up this way, but I kept messing it up, and I finally figured out and proved to myself today that, recently, that it is definitively impossible for me personally to do what I was trying to do. I was calling it transbodiment, trying to get a new, like create a new body out of ether that would um, be able to sustain me and like use my entire mind, so that I could safely be in the ether and take that straight line path. But I failed to do that like 6 or 8 times, or like a bunch of times, and that was what I've been trying to do with meth lately. Um, so, um, but I've been right there on the cusp of leaving the Antichristian Point, and kind of bouncing around in it, going up, going down, like getting broken, getting fixed. But I've been held back by the same two forces that always hold me back, which are fear and not wanting. Um, I'm afraid of what's coming and what's next, and I don't want to do it. Um, I'm not like I'm not particularly willing. Like, I realize at this point I have no choice, and I also think it's really going to be pretty easy and pleasant. Well, maybe not easy, but I don't think it's going to be nearly as bad as I've been thinking it was before. Especially because God's directing me so specifically to Wayside, and their focus on work is exactly what I need. Uh, all of my signals and my ways of interpreting what I need in life. The biggest thing is work, and it doesn't even matter work to what end. or like if it's paid or not, or like if I enjoy it or not. Like just putting in work is necessary for me to uh, reshape my soul, the half of my soul that is uh, in the um, wrong orientation, wrong spin. So, so let's see what else I have. So, so that I'm going to tell you about the third anti-Christian point. Um, so that's where fiveness blooms into being. The fall ends once and for all. The new age is physically manifest. My original physical brokenness is healed. Um, I possess the pattern permanently, the idea of the pattern, and I share it with the world. Um, so, so um, that's the whole video. Um, I'm debating whether to share one last thing with y'all. Um, yeah, I've been for like a year and a half. I've been working with, sitting on, coming to terms with this, and I several times I've uh, intended or gone about trying to share it more broadly, and of course I have with friends and stuff. But um, and I've even made videos explaining it and then never posted them. Um, what I'm getting at so obliquely, which I'm anxious to say it, and I'm also not sure if it's wise to say it. Um, but it's not a huge deal. Um, basically, y'all, I'm the Antichrist, and I've come to that conclusion year and a half ish ago. Um, and I'm not going to go into why or like explaining it, but it's very clear to me. And if you think over what I've said and shared right now today, you might see it makes sense. You know, adds up. Um, but I'm not. You know, what I'm doing. My work is still the same. It's still the same mission and goals. It's not like I'm. Although there's a strong pull that I feel towards kind of darker aspects of it. I don't consider it to be particularly dark and definitely not evil. And really, I'm trying to play that role in a new and better and more beautiful way instead of just making it about an apocalypse. Even though, yeah, foreigners time's going to end, and we're going to have fiveness time, and except in what's the the orthoplex that's still there. Um, and they're gonna have eternity, I guess. I don't think they're gonna have time. Well, I don't know. No, they probably will have time. Um, anyway, I don't want to. I just wanted to put that at the end of this video. So maybe I'll lead with that in the title so that people will watch. It's clickbait. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Have a good night.